How you doing, Instagram? Dr. Thompson here with the Wellness Way Yorkville. Happy Monday, guys. Well, I made myself a liar. I said I was going to go live at 6:30, and we had a sudden change of plans, so it's 3:15, and we're going live, still with the same broadcast, but we just have to do it now instead of a little bit later. So such is life. But I still wanted to go over with you some cool things today. The title of today is Questions to Ask Your Doctor. So this will be really interesting. So if you're new to the page, welcome. Thank you so much for following me. So this will not be for the faint of heart. All right. So we're going to go over a couple of cool things. Just as an FYI, if you haven't gotten your tickets to I Disagree, that's going to be next this Tuesday, tomorrow. Today's the last chance to get 2-for-1 tickets. Tickets at the door will double. We will have about 200 people at that event. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, come to the I Disagree event with Dr. Patrick Flynn. It's going to be absolutely awesome and wonderful. So we're going to get started here in just about a minute. If you're watching right now, let me know where you're watching from, and make sure that you say hello as well. And again, sorry, I'm going to go live just a little bit earlier, only because my daughter has a volleyball game, and she's in like regionals, which is like after regular season playoffs. So they don't seed these things until like right before the end of the season, which was on Friday. And so they are playing at 6 o'clock. So I'm going to watch her, maybe her last game for the season. So I want to make sure I'm there to support her. So hopefully you guys understand. No questions or anything today. We're just going to be going over questions to ask your doctor. I'm also going to go over a really cool nutritional study that just came out just a couple of weeks ago too. So getting ready to start in about 10 minutes. Make sure that you say hello. Let me know where you're watching from as well. Hey, good afternoon, guys. Dr. Nathan Thompson with the Wellness Way Yorkville. Happy Monday. Guys, I apologize. I'm coming to you live a little bit earlier than I promised, about 3 hours earlier, only just because we had a change of plans regarding my schedule. So I wanted to make sure that I still did this, didn't skip it. I won't be able to go live tomorrow just because of the I Disagree event that's coming up. So if you're watching right now on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble, make sure you say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're watching on Instagram, also let me know where you're watching from. I know that we have people watching from all over, which is really, really awesome. From Florida, from Georgia, awesome. So we see people from all across United States, actually all across the world. So it's really awesome. If you're new to the page, say hello as well. Let me know where you are watching from. Today, what I want to go over with you is I want to go over questions to ask your doctor. Okay, so I think that it's very important to be armed with knowledge and armed with the right questions. And it's okay as a patient to want to understand why. I think that's one of the things that when I'm seeing patients, I help them to understand the why, because if we can teach you the why, then the how makes so much more sense. And so we're going to go over today questions to ask your doctor. But while we were waiting for people to jump on and start joining the broadcast, just a couple of things. We had an inflammation talk last week. It was awesome. Our next inflammation event in person, so if you're from the Chicagoland area, is going to be Thursday, November 9th at 6 o'clock p.m. This is an in-person event. Just as an FYI, if you guys are watching from all across the world, please, please, please don't register for this. This is an in-person event, so we don't want you to have to fly from, it's 4 hours away to come to an in-person event. So this is from the Chicagoland area. We're going to talk about the approach to inflammation, which first and foremost is the most important thing to help you be able to identify on your health journey as far as getting better. So whether it comes to weight loss resistance, problems with fertility, cancer, guys, inflammatory issue, thyroid disease, arthritis, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, hormone issues, these are all related to inflammation first and foremost. Guys, the biggest thing that I can tell you is that hormones are responders. They don't cause you to get sick. They make you feel sick, but they're not the reason why you are sick. And so that's why I say stop trying to balance your hormones when you are inflamed. It's just not going to work. So guys, make sure you go to the top of the page if you're from the Chicagoland area. On our Linktree profile, you will see the Eventbrite link to get registered for that. That's going to be on Thursday, November 9th in just a couple of weeks. And then as always, if you are from the contiguous 48 states, which is going to exclude anywhere else in the world. It's going to exclude Hawaii and Alaska. But if you are within the contiguous 48 states and you want to work with the Wellness Way or for myself specifically, go to the link tree and you'll be able to see the inflammation webinar. You'll be able to register for it either on a Tuesday or on a Saturday or on demand. You can watch it right here, right now. And then when you watch it all the way to the end, there's going to be a link, and that link will give you the opportunity to schedule a discovery call with me. And then we can start the process of working together and helping you on your health journey. So webinar, guys, is going to be awesome as well. I recommend that everybody watch that too. And if you are watching right now, and if you haven't at this point gotten your tickets to I Disagree and you are in the Chicagoland area, shame on you. So tickets are still live. We are watching people register like as we speak. I think like 30 people registered within the last day. Tickets are still available for Dr. Patrick Flynn, who, if you don't follow him on Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube, awesome person, one of my mentors, a great individual, and also one of the most dynamic speakers you will ever hear. And he's going to talk about I Disagree, which talks a lot about hormones, talks a lot about what's happened over the last 3 to 4 years, a lot of things you disagree with healthcare. And I promise you, you will be entertained and you will also learn a lot of great new things. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, this is the last chance in the next couple of hours to get your tickets. I believe they still are 2 tickets for the price of 1. But if you are registering at the door, the ticket price is going to double. So make sure you get scheduled for that. And also so that we make sure that we have enough seats for everybody else. And again, guys, if you are watching, make sure that you say hello. Let me know where you are watching from as well. And we're going to go over some cool things. Now, just so you know, if you miss this, if you're watching on Instagram, or if you're watching on Facebook, or if you're watching on YouTube, a lot of times when we go live, people will ask a question because I'll make short videos of the live that we did. People will ask the question and say, go back and watch the replay, because that will give you more context as far as what we're talking about. So you guys can always go back. You can watch the replay. You can go on YouTube. You go on Rumble. I do have more videos on Rumble only because some of them have been taken down on YouTube. This one won't get taken down though. So you can go back and you can watch the full version of this. And in fact, when they want to argue, they go back and watch the full video for more context, and usually they say, that makes a lot of sense. Now, let me preface this, guys, with what we are going to talk about today. And it's this: if you don't like hard questions, please turn off this broadcast. Don't watch this any further, because I'm going to ask very tough questions. And these are tough questions that you should ask your doctor. I believe as a healthcare consumers are becoming more and more savvy, and they are less and less just saying, doc, you're just a god, and I trust everything that you say. And if you guys have been seeing what's been going on over the last 3 to 4 years, I think people are becoming a little bit more savvy, and they're understanding that there's so many different things that are going on in healthcare that a lot of people don't agree with. Okay. So if you don't like hard questions, then please don't listen to this any further. Sometimes people say you offend me with what you say. And I say, good. I hope I offend you. I hope that I do. Because no one ever changes unless they're first offended. When I changed my life around, I was offended. Okay. If someone told me you're fat, I was offended, terribly offended. Then I look back and I said, you know what? I am. And maybe I should change that. So no one ever changes unless they're first and foremost offended. And in fact, even in athletics, nothing motivated me get better than losing or being embarrassed or not being prepared. And so when I say something that may offend you, good. That's actually the first step into being able to change your life. No change ever takes place unless you are first and foremost offended. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not thinking about you and saying, how can I offend you today? So I'm not thinking about people, but anytime that you have an opinion, your opinion is going to offend someone. So before I go over the questions, which there's going to be about 10 or 11 of them, I want to show you an interesting article that came from the British Medical Journal. And this was about 3 weeks ago. The title of this article is Association Between Changes in Carbohydrate Intake and Long-Term Weight Changes. This is a prospective cohort study, which means they followed a group of people over a number of years, which was over 30 years, and it involved over 100,000 people, okay? And so what was interesting, what they wanted to see in this study is they wanted to see the association between carbohydrate intake and weight changes at 4-year intervals. Really what they were trying to ask as far as the question was concerned is does the type of carbohydrate matter? How many of you have just said it's just all about calories in, it's just about calories out, and that's all that matters? The quality of food, the quality of the carbohydrates, the quality of the protein, the quality of the fat doesn't make a difference because we think that weight loss is the ultimate goal. Just remember this, guys. I've known people who have died of metastatic cancer, very skinny, who lost a lot of weight, and it didn't necessarily equate to health. So with this, over 135,000 participants, men and women, here's where the results were. Okay, so again, they are looking at this quality of carbohydrate intake. Does it really matter? Okay, now first and foremost, on average, the participants gained on average 1.5 kilograms, which I think comes out to maybe around 3.5 pounds every 4 years. So every 4 years, they were almost putting a pound of weight on every 4 years. And I guarantee it probably wasn't muscle. It was probably fat. In fact, it was probably more fat because as people become more and more sedentary as they get older, they're also losing muscle mass as well. And so it accounted to 8.8 kilograms on average over 24 years. So look at someone who may have started at 30. By the time that they were 54 years of age, they had basically gained about 20 pounds, and Lord knows how much muscle mass that they lost during that time as well. Among men and women, increases in glycemic index and glycemic load were positively associated with weight gain. So what it means by this is if you increase the number of sugar, that was associated, or carbs, that was associated with weight gain. But then on top of that, what also mattered was the glycemic index of the foods that you were consuming. What's interesting about this is that when I mention glycemic index, people look at me like a deer in the headlights and like, I don't know, what does that mean? Well, it just measures how quickly it spikes up your blood sugar, meaning pure glucose. If you measure that at a 1, every other food goes below that. The higher it is to a glycemic index of 100 with glucose, the more of a glycemic index these foods have. So, for example, white bread has a lot higher glycemic index than broccoli. So broccoli maybe I think at about 25, and bread might be in the, gosh, where is it at? My 75 or 80 or something like that. Even there is even some fruits with a very high glycemic index as well. So they said increases in foods in the glycemic index and your overall sugar intake were associated with weight gain. And so they say like this, for example, 100 gram per day increase in starch or added sugars was associated with a 1.5 and 0.9 kilogram greater weight gain over 4 years. Okay. So when they looked at this, that if you were increasing just 100 grams a day in starchy food and also in foods that contain added sugar, that was associated with an increase in weight gain. Now, here's what they say. Whereas a 10 gram per day increase in fiber was associated with 0.8 kilograms less weight gain. So what they said is even if you had an increase, that if you replace it with a different type of carbohydrate, which is a fiber in which you're not digesting that, they actually found that there was actually negative weight gain taking place. Now, increase carbohydrate intake from whole grains, meaning, and you had 0.4 kilograms less weight gain. Fruit, 1.6 kilograms less weight gain per 100 gram increase, and non-starchy vegetables. Now, look at this. 3.0 kilograms less weight gain per 100 gram per day increase was inversely associated with weight gain. Okay, so what caused the least amount of weight gain, in fact, caused negative weight gain? It was whole grains, it was fruit, but guess what performed the best? Non-starchy vegetables. What are the best non-starchy vegetables? One with the lowest glycemic index. I want you to think of things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, things like that. They said those were actually some of the best ones. That's why you can't necessarily demonize carbohydrates, guys. And yes, the type of carbs absolutely does matter. Now, here's what they say. They said this. They said intake from refined grains cause 0.8 kilograms more weight gain, and starchy vegetables cause 2.6 kilograms more weight gain per 100-gram increase. So what were the starchy vegetables? I don't know why they call this, because peas technically aren't considered a vegetable. Neither is corn, but they said peas, corn, and potatoes caused one of the largest increases in weight when they were increasing their amount of carbohydrate intake by 100 grams. So that was positively associated with weight gain. So when they came back with their analysis, they finally said this, is that you really should replace your refined grains, your starchy vegetables, and your sugar sweetened beverages, i.e. your added sugars, with equal servings of whole grains, fruit, and non-starchy vegetables. That was associated with less weight gain. The conclusion is this, is that the findings of the study highlight the potential importance of carbohydrate quality and source for long-term weight management, especially for people with excessive body weight. Limiting added sugars, sugar-sweetened beverages, refined grains, and starchy vegetables in favor of whole grains, fruit, and non-starchy vegetables may support efforts in order to control weight. Now, can it get even better than that? The answer is yes. Because when we talk about like what's one of the answers for this? Well, one of the answers that we've talked about in the past is the no sugar diet. So if you guys don't know what we talk about, no sugar diet, it's not a no carbohydrate diet. It's not carnivore. It's not keto. But what it is saying, hey, the quality of carbohydrates do matter, and the glycemic index, yes, does matter. And if you really want to know or get an idea what the no sugar diet is, you can go to my Linktree profile and you can look at a link. I think it's at the very bottom that says no sugar guidelines. But basically, what is it? It's basically not eating any carbs that have a glycemic index or glycemic index of over approximately 55. Now, do you have to do that for the rest of your life? No. But basically what it does is just massively decreases the amount of sugar that you're consuming. Also, because these things have a lot of fiber and they have a lot of bulk, you tend to feel a lot fuller once you get adapted to it. And so this is just one of the things that you can do when you're talking about nutrition is, hey, I need to decrease the quality and the quantity of my carbohydrates. In fact, refined grains and added sugars are the bane of everybody's existence. You may be getting away with it for a period of a couple of years, but this study just actually shows that when people say I'm getting older and I'm just supposed to get fatter, well, it just has to do with the amount of sugars that people are consuming. And you will see that they respond less and less to sugars because of something known as insulin resistance. Okay. So I'll talk probably more about that down the road. So questions to ask your doctor. You guys ready for this? Are you guys ready? If you're ready, in the comments, put I am ready. And I'm going to show you some interesting questions that you should ask your doctor, mainly to help you to, as a patient, to start to think a little bit differently. Okay. So here's the first question. First question to ask your doctor. This, doctor, why is it that two people can be exposed to the same virus, yet they have a dramatically different result? So why is it that one person got exposed to COV, et cetera, and they had just a, cold-like symptoms for 2 days and then they were fine. But then the other person just got exposed to the same virus and they ended up in the hospital and they almost died. So why is it that two people can be exposed to the same virus yet have a dramatically different result? Because the reality is that is it not the same virus? Is it not the same virus? So then what is the answer? The answer is this: not everyone should get the same solution when it comes to this. So what's the difference between the two? The difference is the strength of the host. How strong is the person coming into contact with a virus or with a bacteria? Which means this: rather than saying everybody gets the same treatment, then what we should be doing then is instead focusing on what is causing a person to become weak, and then to work on making them strong again. It's no different than if you said, hey, we all have to be able to pick up this 225-pound dumb or barbell loaded with weights off the floor. Why? Because it's what life demands from us. So you better start training for it. We don't move the goalposts to make everyone a winner. What we should be doing is training people to start to make them strong again. And the same thing has to do with the immune system. So is it the virus or is it the host? Where we've been taught that it's all about the virus and there's nothing that you can do in order to measure your immune system responses. There's nothing that you can do as far as making yourself even stronger to be able to withstand any kind of environment. That's one of the things that we've talked about over the last 3 years, especially. Okay. Here's another thing to ask your doctor as well. Hey, doc, if it's genetic, then why did I develop my condition now instead of at birth? Why did I develop it at now? I've had people ask me this question so many times where they say, this is weird, but I have allergies now. Why do I have allergies? And I'm 28 years of age. I've never, ever had allergies. And they go to the doctor and say, why am I getting allergies now? And they say, well, it's just genetic. But the question is, if it truly was genetic, you would express that at birth. Or why does someone develop asthma? Like I developed asthma at 4 years of age, but didn't have asthma before that. And also on top of that, I don't have asthma anymore. So why did I develop my condition now instead of at birth? And this is also true as people get older and they're like, well, I guess the type 2 diabetes, I guess that's genetic. You weren't type 2 diabetic at 25 years of age, or you didn't have high cholesterol at 25 years of age. Otherwise, you would have familial hypercholesterolemia, in which you would have an elevated LDL from birth. So you have to understand that when doctors are saying it's genetic, what on earth are they actually talking about? Because usually genetics is just the cop out. They're just saying, oh, we don't really know, so we'll just blame our genetics. So the question that you have to start thinking about is the condition that you have. Is it an injury or is it an illness? Think of this. Is it an injury or is it an illness? Because if you start looking at your health conditions as an injury, then that gives you hope to say, maybe I should figure out how to stop injuring myself. This is why when someone develops allergies at 25 years of age, maybe it's an injury that has become unresolved. And no, we're not talking about you're getting asthma from an ankle sprain, but just think of this. If you sprained your ankle and you kept spraining it every single day, it's never ever going to heal. And if you went to the doctor and you say, look at my ankle, it's swollen, it's red, it's hot, this has been going on continuously for the last 6 months, and it would be the same as the doctor said, well, it must be genetic. You must have a genetic condition that causes ankle swelling, and let's figure that out. Meanwhile, if you came to me and I would say, hey, you know what? What are you doing every single day to keep spraining your ankle? You're like, well, I just keep rolling it on the curb. I say, maybe you should stop walking on the curb for time being. And, the greatest clinical gains that people get is actually from being able to identify what is creating the injury and then stop injuring it and then allow the body to be able to recover and heal, which is genetically programmed to do that. It's always trying to adapt and it's always trying to heal. So whatever condition that you have, asthma, allergies, type 2 diabetes, is it an injury or is it an illness? If you look at an injury, that gives you hope and that gives you the right mindset to say, what do I need to do to start to recover? But if you think it's an illness, then you're going to think it's just genetic. There's nothing that you can do and you lose all hope and you'll never ever get better. And it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy that you just say, I can't do anything about it. So give me the meds. Give me the meds and there's just nothing that I can do. So ask your doctor this, okay? What percent of my condition is genetic? Doc, what genes are technically involved? Can you tell me which gene is involved with this? And what percent of my condition is based on lifestyle? Because if it's all genes, you have no hope, okay? Maybe your genes are changing and responding to your lifestyle because genes change according to environment. But think of this, even if it was only 5% related to your lifestyle, then that gives you 5% improvement. And I would work like crazy in order to help to try to get that to happen. Okay. So think of this, guys. Genes are the loaded gun and lifestyle will pull the trigger. Okay. So whatever your genetic expression is that it's the loaded gun, but lifestyle will always pull the trigger. You need to activate it. So if you say, well, I have a genetic tendency towards type 2 diabetes, great. Then work like crazy to make sure that you don't get it. Don't allow those genes to be able to get beat up and to be able to adapt according to that lifestyle. Because remember this, a loaded gun is not dangerous unless you pick it up and you have to pull the trigger. Okay. How about the next question that you ask your doctor? Doctor, they say you have this condition, you're going to go on these medications, and you say, great. What is your plan then moving forward? So the doctor says you have high blood pressure, you're going to need to be on blood pressure medication. You say, great, that blood pressure medication will get it down. But what is your plan for me moving forward to help me be able to get off of these medications? And in fact, this is a question that I ask people a lot, is I say, when they come in and they have tried medical approach for years, 10, 15, 20 years, and I ask them this question, what's your doctor's plan moving forward? And you know what they say? 99.9% of the time, there is no plan. There's nothing other than to do what? To do a test, take a drug, have a side effect, take another drug, do another drug. And it's always a reductionist, this for that approach. And there's no plan moving forward other than it's always more drugs. It's never less drugs. So guys, you need to stop asking for permission slips to continue with your destructive lifestyle. I want to give you an example of this because the other day I was going to the eye doctor in order to update my contact lens prescription. And I was just sitting there and I was waiting for my appointment. And there was a gentleman who came in and who has also had an appointment as well. And the person that was doing the health intake on this person, they said, can you tell me the medications that you're on? And this individual could hardly, probably only in his early 60s. He was morbidly obese, could hardly walk, just looked inflamed, just looked stiff. I mean, just looked like an absolute disaster. And they said, can you tell me the meds that you're taking? And he said this, I have no idea. The doctor just gives me the drugs and I just take them. I couldn't tell you which medications that I'm taking. I do know that I'm on something called, I think, metformin for my diabetes, but I've got a ton of other ones as well. And he said, I have the list of them in the car. I could probably go out and get it, but off the top of my head, I have no idea what drugs and what medications I'm doing. And that's what's interesting is not only do they not know really the condition that they have, why they have the condition, what's happening physiologically, but they don't even know the meds that they are taking for those specific things. And that's it's just a terrible place to be, in that the patient doesn't even know what's going on in their own health. Now, maybe they just don't care. I can't answer that for him, but when they just say, just give me the next med and to just barely keep me alive and keep me functioning, there's a difference between just literally being alive and truly being healthy. In fact, when people say, yeah, but with medicine, we're living longer than ever before, I'm like, yeah, I agree. The biggest contribution that medicine has is because it's gotten really good at being able to put out fires in regards to infection and accidents, but they're never getting to the reason why there's chronic degenerative illness that's going on. And they haven't been able to answer that. So there's just a lot of people that are living longer, but they're just living longer while they're staying inflamed and while they're staying sick. So here's another question that you need to ask your doctor. How many people have you personally helped to reduce their medications? So how many people have you personally helped to reduce their medications? Doc, have you ever been able to get people off of the medications? And we're not talking about, they did it themselves. We're talking about, did you take a personal interest in teaching them about health, teaching them about lifestyle, teaching them about advanced testing, and you are systematically being able to get them off of medications? Now, I know doctors who have been able to do it, and that's because I had to send them back to the doctor because their labs now were screwed up just because their medication, people were getting healthier and the medication was manipulating their numbers even lower, i.e. like blood pressure or thyroid medication and things like that. but you need to ask your doctor how many times have they personally been involved in creating a plan in order to help people reduce their medications. Isn't that what doctors are supposed to do? Not to add more drugs, but to actually add less medications. And the reason why they may say that they haven't is because of this, is because if you look at the insurance healthcare model, in fact, you really have to bundle those things together because they're now just, they can't be separated because insurance is intimately tied with healthcare. This is why so many people, they'll message me and they say, do you take this insurance? I'm like, no, we don't. We and people will argue like you have to take, no, we don't take any insurance. And in fact, the insurance that you used, you're still sick from using that insurance and healthcare model. So that model, what it pays for is it pays for encounters. The insurance healthcare model pays for encounters and not for outcomes. Let me say that again. The insurance healthcare model pays for encounters and not for outcomes. The outcomes don't matter. It's just the number of encounters that they have throughout the day. They get paid more if they have 50 encounters versus if they have 20 encounters. And out of those encounters, people are actually moving their health forward. So here's the next question that you have to ask is this, Doc, all right, I understand that I have this X condition, whatever it might be. I realize that I have something wrong with my thyroid. I might have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I may have an autoimmune condition. I may have type 2 diabetes. I may have weight loss resistance. I may have high blood pressure. I may have problems with my hormones. I may have PCOS. I might have endometriosis. Doc, are you willing to spend time to teach me about the best nutrition for me based on very specific testing? Doctor, are you willing to spend the time to teach me about the best nutrition for me based on specific testing? The answer is they won't. They won't test any further than what a drug solution will provide. They're not going to test anything any further than what a drug solution is going to provide. This is a perfect example is that why aren't doctors actually doing full thyroid testing? Why are they just basically testing TSH, maybe T3, T4? Why don't they care about thyroid antibodies or anything like that? Because the reason why is because it doesn't change their treatment plan. Why don't doctors actually go deeper as far as looking at insulin, looking at some of them now do A1C, but even looking at insulin levels and being able to do like an expanded lipid profile? Why aren't they willing to do that? Because it's not going to change their solution, because the solution will always be a medication for it. That's why they only test LDL or maybe apolipoprotein B, because the solution is always the same. Go on a statin drug. If it gives you a symptom like joint pain or muscle pain, we'll put you on a different one. And we'll keep putting you on different ones until we find one that doesn't give you all kinds of joint pain and things like that. Or we'll give you some of the new and novel medications, or we can give you the cholesterol medication injections that they're coming out with now as well. So even if you're talking about nutrition, guys, if you're just talking about nutrition and people say, how on earth am I supposed to be eating? I would actually say the first thing that you need to approach is you need to approach whether foods are creating an inflammatory trigger. If you guys watched the live that I did last week about histamines, please go back and watch that, because the histamine response is an immune system response. And why would immune system respond to proteins is because they're seeing a food protein that they're not supposed to see. And the immune system is just reacting the way that it's supposed to. So the first thing that you have to, when you're talking about nutrition, is will it create an inflammatory response or not? Then number two is what's my blood sugars at? What's my average blood sugars, like my A1C? What are my insulin levels at? And then the third thing is how well am I even able to absorb certain things? Can I even absorb them? Have you guys ever wondered this? Why one person can take 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, and their vitamin D levels are at 40, and then one person takes 5,000 IUs and their levels are up to 100, and they both weigh approximately the same weight. So is that not an issue with absorption? And so that's why, guys, when you're talking about just about nutrition, for example, is that this is why we say, okay, test your foods, IgG, IgE, test your blood sugars, your A1C, your insulin levels probably look at your C-reactive protein, your homocysteine levels, things like that, and then even look at how well you're absorbing things, which you can look at when you're looking at a stool test as well. So can you then design a diet and a nutrition plan that is very specific to the individual? And the answer is unequivocally yes. And that's why it needs to be individualized. Shouldn't be just eat the Mediterranean diet or just eat the DASH diet. You understand how everything is a protocol. Everything is a protocol nowadays, or people ask me, what is your protocol? And I'm like, if you're asking for a protocol, then you are not a doctor. What you are is that you are just basically following a list of rules. And that's where the art should actually come in. How about this? When a doctor says, well, you need to eat better and you need to exercise, then say, okay, doc, I'll agree with you, but then how can I get more fit? How can I increase my fitness? Can you tell me actually what fitness is? What on earth is fitness? Because usually they're just going to say, well, just go ahead and get enough steps in, maybe do some cardiovascular exercise and a little bit of weight training. And you say, yeah, but how? What specifically can you show me? I can show people exactly what they're supposed to do. And excuse me. And in fact, not only can I show them, but I actually do it. How often, doctor, do you exercise? It's so interesting when you see a doctor tell you what to do, and you know that on the other side of the table, they are lying to you. They are telling you to do something that they do not do themselves. That's being hypocritical. The healthiest people should be your doctor. They should be. So how can I get more fit? And then ask the doctor, well, doctor, what is the definition of fitness? I know what the definition of fitness is. It's the ability to move an external load across broad time and modal domains. So it's the ability to either move your body or an external load across broad time and broad modal domains. Broad time means this. What is your fitness at 2 or 3 seconds? What's your fitness at 10 to 20 minutes? What's your fitness at 20 minutes beyond? And your ability to be able to move the loads, because this is requiring 3 different energy systems. Not only that, but how many different domains, modal domains, are you proficient in? Not just running, not just jogging, not just jumping rope, not just rowing, not just biking, not just weightlifting, not just gymnastics. It's all of them. You should be proficient in all of them, because a specialist will kill you when it comes to your everyday life. And you need to be proficient in all of those different things. That's why when you talk about fitness, here's what you should be looking at. You should be looking at number one. In fact, some people, they're just not ready. Their health is so bad that I'll say, you're not ready for some of this upper level stuff. You need to actually heal before you start to introduce some of those things. That's why I'll recommend, hey, just get some NEAT in. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So just start moving more, okay? So park 150 feet out from the store versus 10 feet, from the store. So get more steps in. Instead of only getting 1,000 steps in, try to get 5 to 10,000 steps in. It's not stressing the body, but it is in fact just more movement. Then number 2, start gaining functional type strength. Start getting functional strength, like start getting better at things like the deadlift, or get better at squatting, or get better at pressing, or get better at pull-ups, or get better at push-ups. There's an infinite amount of movements that you can start to become proficient in. And then when you start using those movements that you start moving better at, then you can start to introduce intensity that's going to impact not only your strength and muscle mass, but then also your cardiorespiratory endurance. That's why when people say the only thing I do is walk, and I'm like, then you'll never be better than just being a walker. That's it. You'll never be better at walking. If you want to be a better walker, then become a better squatter. You want to be a better walker, then become a better deadlifter. If you want to be a better jogger, then get stronger. So, and that's why so many people are just they're so satisfied with just being a good walker, but they'll never be anything better than that. Walking is really more of an expression of your fitness than it is of just being fit in and of itself. Here's the next question that you asked your doctor. I hope this doesn't get me banned. But which ingredient in this recommended what is your favorite? Which ingredient in this recommended injection, which one, doctor, is your favorite? And See if they even know the ingredients or what the ingredients are actually doing. What's interesting is I've gone in and I've asked nurses, nurse practitioner, and I've asked them, I said, do you have any idea what's in this? And you know what they say? They say, nope. Um, it's just what the experts tell us to do, and we trust the experts. And I'm like, then you better make sure that the experts aren't lying to you. So the whole idea of just saying, I trust the experts or I trust the science, I'm like, well, if you trust the science, then you better trust who is telling you the science. And the biggest thing that I want to end is with this. If your doctor can't answer these questions, okay, they can't answer these questions, or maybe they get upset or they get angry at you, chances are the emperor has no clothes. And if you know what that means, and if you've heard that before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If your doctor can't answer these questions, or they're going to get angry at you, or maybe you run out of time, or they have to look up from their computer as they enter in your stuff into the electronic health management system, and they say, we're out of time here, then maybe the emperor has no clothes. And think of this, guys, is that healthcare shouldn't be, you have to accept everything or you'll get nothing. Has that ever happened to you? And I'll give you an example, is that basically with my 4 kids, the only time that they really go to the pediatrician is to get their sports physicals. True story. And so they go once a year in order to get their sports physicals and things like that to be able to participate in sports. But I remember for our youngest, when we just went, say, hey, we'll just get him checked out at 7 days old or approximately that. And this was a very natural pediatrician, natural minded, integrative medicine minded. And we didn't give him any kind of vitamin K at all. She said, you have to give him vitamin K. We said, no, we don't need to. We're not even circumcising him, so we don't need to. He's not going to bleed. And this integrative doctor kicked not only our youngest out of the practice, but then also our other 3 kids. And the reason why is she said, you'll accept everything I do or you'll get absolutely nothing. Has that ever happened to you? Because I see this a lot with doctors on social media, is they say this, look at what we did for you. And now you're saying you don't want to do this? Well, then next time you're coming in with a heart attack, maybe I should decide if I should do it or not. Isn't that disgusting? I've seen it. It's almost when the doctor says, I saved your life for this heart attack and you don't want to go on these meds for the rest of my life, then you're not going to get anything from me. And so medicine shouldn't be, you have to accept everything we do or we're not going to see you. You know what you call that? You call that a cult. That's what you call it, is you call it cultish religious behavior. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a Christian, but the thing is that that medicine shouldn't be a religion. So think of this. If your doctor is not willing to question their profession, then they're either a zealot, they're either a coward, or they're just intellectually lazy. And you know what is also true? It's true for every healing profession. It's not just medicine. I have a beef even with a lot in my own profession, in the chiropractic profession. If they're not willing to question it, if they're not willing to look at it and say, this doesn't make sense, they're either a zealot, they're a coward, or they're just flat out intellectually lazy. And you will find in every profession that is also true. That in 90% of people within a profession is that they have no goals in order to make themselves better. They just go along to get along, or they're afraid to stand up and say, this doesn't make sense, we need to do something different, or they're just so lazy they have no concept of actually growing as a professional and learning more to be the best. And this is true in every healing profession, in medicine and in naturopathy, in also chiropractic, in every single profession. And that's why, from every profession's perspective, I believe that we can start to do so much better, guys. Absolutely so much better. but we need to start looking at things from a very different perspective. So, guys, if you're again from the Chicagoland area, make sure that you jump on at our inflammation event that's coming up in person on Thursday, November 9th at 6 o'clock p.m. You can go register up at the top of the page. And then also, if you are within the contiguous 48 states, go up to Linktree and you can find the webinar to get registered for it. And then at the end, you'll get the link in order to be able to schedule a discovery call with myself. Tickets, again, are going to be available until tonight. 2-for-1 tickets at Patrick Flynn's, Dr. Patrick Flynn's I Disagree tour. That's tomorrow. He'll be coming into town tomorrow, probably late morning, early afternoon. And this is October 24th from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Doors open, just as an FYI, at 5 o'clock for all of our wonderful vendors, for appetizers, an opportunity to meet Dr. Patrick, have a book signing. It's going to be an awesome event. I really hope to see you guys there, especially if you are from the Chicagoland area. So, guys, questions that you need to ask your doctor. Remember, start to think things through. And when you start to think things through, you can start to come up with different solutions. When you start looking at things from a different perspective, you can start to see that there are other solutions that are out there. So these are questions to ask your doctor. I hope you take that list, and I hope you have a great discussion with them. So, guys, be well, be blessed. I'll be broadcasting live tomorrow night at the I Disagree event. So join me then if you're not going to make it in person. It will not be recorded, but this will be an opportunity so you can see just the awesome event that we have going on. So, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Be well, be blessed, and remember who you